Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of College Hockey Talk. On today's podcast, we are joined by a senior from the St. Anselm women's hockey team, Gabrielle Huson. Thank you so much for coming on the podcast, Gabrielle, and how's everything going?
Everything's going great. We were just talking about this, but I cannot believe it's already January 17th. I was just saying, I feel like you go into winter break and it's like, oh my gosh, we have so much time to just sit around and play hockey. It's the best. But now classes start next week and back to work.
No, I totally understand where you're coming from because it feels like winter break was just like last week, and now classes start for me. So it's pretty
Yeah,
crazy how it flies by. I'm assuming as a senior, it must be even more scarier because it's one of your last semesters.
it is. I mean, it's a bittersweet realization knowing that this is my last semester. I'm simultaneously applying for law school, which in and of itself is so crazy to think about. I mean, you go into college and you're like, I have so much time to do that, and now it's here, and it's very real. So dealing with that, but it's all good.
Yeah, just try to have some fun along the way and just enjoy the last moments of college. So,
I most definitely am.
well, let's talk about your team for a little bit. Obviously, your team just started off the second half of the season, and you guys are doing pretty well. You guys are in second place at the time of this recording in NEWHA. So, how would you evaluate your team's performance as of now?
Gosh, I hear you say second place, and that just like hurts me inside because for all the listeners, we were tied for first, and then we lost in overtime to LIU, which was a stinger. But here we are. I mean, that's hockey. So we're in second place now, trying to get back to first, I think is a definite goal. Thus far, I mean, we had a really good in conference stretch, and then we had a really strong game against Dartmouth. And so that was right before Christmas break. And I think that was a really positive um, move for our team. I think in the second half, we've had a little bit more difficult play, with playing Yale. That was a really exciting game, but obviously they're a super good team. So I think we're just building back and looking forward to these conference games. And I'm really excited for the end of the season just to see how we do.
Yeah, and hopefully by the time this gets out, maybe your team will be back in first place by then.
Oh my gosh, I really, really hope so. There's a lot of moving parts to that. So we'll
Mhm.
see.
And obviously, you guys play in NEWHA, and I feel like a lot of people don't know a lot about that conference. So just talk a little bit about what it's like playing in NEWHA and just the competition you face every night.
Yeah, so I try to bring awareness to NEWHA a lot. I think you said it perfectly. A lot of people don't know about what it is. A bunch of teams, a handful of teams, I should say, went D1 for girls hockey. A lot of them not well known to the Midwest. So one of them is obviously St. Anselm, and it's been a very interesting road, honestly. Your question was the competition in NEWHA. I think being that we're all new D1 teams, we have all been the underdog in a bunch of games before, especially our out of conference games. And I think that is really reflected when we play in conference games, like against each other, because we're so gritty and it's like the blue collar hockey play and it's physical and we all really want to win. And so it's always a good competition. You never know what you're going to get out of any of the teams, no matter what the rankings are. We always try to watch the other teams play, like Franklin Pierce or LIU, just to see the competition. And sometimes you never know, like if they're playing Post, who's ranked a little bit lower in our conference, but Post will give them really good games. So it's very suspenseful. That's what I'd say it is.
Yeah, and it also seems like there's a lot of parity in that conference as well because heading into this year, I know you guys added Stonehill to the conference, and I didn't know what to expect from them, but they've played pretty well so far. So it just shows you that you never know what could happen every single weekend.
Yeah, we play Stonehill coming up, and trust me, we are not taking them lightly. You'd think with like a new program like that they might start off struggling, and they have not whatsoever. So we are doing everything we can to go into that series prepared. So yeah, Stonehill has looked really good. They're definitely fierce competition.
And like you said, obviously, Newha's a very physical conference. You definitely notice that whenever I watch a Newha team play an out of conference team, is that sort of something that you guys like pride yourself on or work on, or is it something that just sort of is just natural for your teams in your conference?
So, speaking from my experience with our team playing out of conference games, I think we go into it thinking, the other team has everything to lose. Like, especially with teams that have long histories of winning, like Quinnipiac, we've played them a handful of times. We go into those games and we're like, you know, they have everything on the line right now. And I think we use that as motivation, and a lot of times it's worked out really well for us. I think we're still trying to get more of those out of conference games wins under our belt, but I
Mhm.
think in the future that could work in our favor. I think we're definitely heading in the right direction. Especially, I look at other teams in our conference, and some of them have had really huge wins. I know Sacred Heart just beat Harvard in their rank opener, which is really cool for them. So
Yeah.
a lot of good things.
Yeah, no, like I feel like the physicality, like there was a photo of yourself shoving a main player on the goal line. You can see if there's any background story with that because I did think that was a great picture, but I feel like that just encapsulates what NEWHA's like.
Oh my gosh, yeah. Whenever I play out of conference teams, they are always so what's the word? They're so just like dedicated in front of the net, and discipline is what I was looking for. Like when we were playing Yale, these girls would never stop moving around. Like they would try to escape from us by making a circle around the net. I just thought it was really creative. So I always go into this knowing that they're going to be fierce in front of the net, and I think that picture reflects that a little bit. I think I got a little lucky on that one. Kind of looks like a cross check, but any defenseman will tell you you'll get away with a little bit more in front of the net.
Hey, at least you got away with it and you got a cool photo out of it too. So
That's true.
now, obviously, you're a senior this year and you're
Mhm.
also a captain. So I
Yep.
want to ask you, what type of leadership have you tried to bring to the team this year? Are you a vocal leader or are you more lead by example?
So I would say you are not a good leader if you're not constantly changing and like trying to better yourself. I think what got me the A last year was that I led by example, and I was really approachable. I think a lot of girls on the team would say that they feel like they could come talk to me, and I think I did a lot of the things right, like in terms of school and just putting in the work for hockey. But as you get older, you get more a little bit confident. And so I think I've transformed into more of a vocal leader this year, especially when it's like your senior season on the line. You want to give everything you can. So I think now I'm more of a vocal leader, but in the beginning I was definitely a lead by example. I try to be really, I try to be a motivational leader, I think is a good way to describe it. Like sometimes going into these out of conference games, you feel like the underdog. And I think a lot of the time that can be reflected in girls' attitudes and their body language. And I think I try to really motivate the team, saying, like, we've made it this far. I think this is a huge win for girls hockey that we have a new conference, and we need to act like it, and they have everything to lose. And we've given a lot of teams really good games. So I'm really proud of my team for that. So, yeah, it's a work in progress. I try to learn every single day. I make mistakes a lot, but what can you do?
Mhm. And then obviously on the ice, I feel like you've improved a lot since your freshman year. So talk about what you think the biggest improvement you've made to your game is so far, I guess, from your freshman year to your senior year.
Gosh, I think a lot of people could sympathize with this. You go into freshman year and you are nervous. You don't know what to expect from college hockey. It's a big change. And you kind of go in there timid. You go into the first practice. There's a lot of people who are better than you. And you think, wow, I have to put in some work to stay here. I have to put in some work to stay in the lineup. I'm sure a lot of people sympathize with those feelings. So I, of course, had all of those freshman year. And now I think the biggest overall change to my game is just confidence. You play a lot better when you feel like you should be there. You play a lot better when you might not have a lot of time left. So I think my senior, the biggest thing that I've transformed from being a freshman to a senior is I think I play a lot more confidently now. And it sounds like a minuscule thing, but it actually helps a lot.
Yeah, and just talk about like your goals and expectations for the rest of this year as a senior. I just read somewhere, I think NEWHA can finally get a national tournament bid, so that's pretty exciting. But I'm assuming that your goal is just to win the conference and obviously get that bid. But if is there any other goals that might be on your team's radar that, fans might not be aware of?
Um, I think, like you said, I mean, especially losing to Franco Pierce in the championship last year, we have playoffs on our mind. Um, We have all in conference games for the rest of the season. Our goal is undoubtedly to win all of those. We really want to clinch getting the first place seat so we can host playoffs. I think that gives obviously a lot of teams a leg up, and I think hosting playoffs would be a good leadway into winning the conference, just because we have a great rink, and it's a lot easier to play when you feel like you're at home and not 5 hours away at LIU or somewhere else. But I think it would be winning the rest of the games, clinching first place, and then obviously going to playoffs. We could have went last year. I don't think a lot of your viewers might have known that, but because of COVID and our seasons being canceled that year, we we're not. It did not count as a year. So it's my senior year, and now we got it, and I'm
That's
excited.
that's awesome. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Now, I do want to give your team some credit because you were talking about how you want to improve in those non-conference games, but you guys did get a big win on the road against Dartmouth.
Yep.
So just talk about how important that win was for your team, especially beating an ECAC team, because I think you can make the case that the ECAC is one of the strongest conference in women's college hockey this year.
Yes. So I mean, obviously, winning an out of conference game is huge for any team in the NEWHA, just because it's like we're meant to be here. I think a lot of teams can overlook us, or at least have in some of my earlier years here. And I think that's starting to fade with a lot of the teams' out of conference wins. Obviously, beating Dartmouth right before winter break was huge, because I think it just gives us the motivation to keep pushing through winter break. It can be a difficult time for a lot of players, because you get there, it's after finals week, and you're just like, oh, I want to hang out with my family. I might not want to get on the bike. But I think the win against Dartmouth gave a lot of the players maybe just the hope and the pride that we are meant to be here. And I want to put in the work over Christmas break so we can clinch some wins right after, because we had a tough couple out of conference games right after Christmas.
Yeah. How do you guys bond as a team during winter break?
Oh my gosh, we hang out 24/7. I think our coach wishes that we didn't hang out so much, because we're always constantly together. We have a few apartments on and off campus, and I think if you walked around, you would see us together 24/7, whether we're playing Mario Kart or just getting meals together. Yeah, I mean that's all you really can do. We do have some prank wars going on, which has been fun. All in good fun prank wars though.
Have you been a victim or you have you been doing them to other people?
The senior class took it under our belt this year, and we just had some fun, like little saran wrap on cars, little Christmas wrapping paper on cars. It was fun. It was all jokes. So it was fun for our team. But I will say I am a little scared that the junior class is gonna come back at us.
I don't even know how do you wrap a whole car with like Christmas paper? That seems very difficult.
So it's actually funny, because their cars were right outside their there to distract them, and she was like, I can't even remember what story she told them, but she was saying something to them so they none of them would look out the window, because our campus is small and the parking lots are like adjacent to all of the buildings, so they park really close. And so she was in there, and we could see her right through the window being like, look at me. And we were right around. Saran wrap, I will say to any listeners on here, is loud. If you're running around with the thing, it makes a lot of noise. So but we did get away with it. We did.
That's good. That's good. Well, it'll be interesting to see what the junior class has in store. Who knows
i'll,
what they'll do before the end of the year.
I'll update you.
Now let's transition and talk about the beginning of your hockey career and kind of work all the way up to where you are today. So, just doing research on yourself, it says that you're from Edina. So, talk about growing up there and how'd you start playing hockey?
So I think anyone in Minnesota will say this. It feels like all of us collectively started playing hockey from the time we can remember. And I mean, you drive around. We've had some of our out-of-state teammates here in Minnesota, and they will all tell us like there are hockey rinks everywhere, and that's just how it is in Minnesota. So I grew up playing. Um, by this rink near my house, and also my parents are from Grand Rapids, and we have a cabin on the lake up there, and we would always shovel off a big rink and have these tournaments with my neighbors. And I think a lot of people can relate to that experience, and that it's just the greatest memory of growing up um, is doing that. So I've had the skates on ever since I can remember. I played at both Benilde and Gentry. Prior to that, I did a lot of what some of the other girls do who play boys hockey, and I played at Minnesota Made, which is such a wonderful experience. I would recommend that to any girl who is younger and growing up in the Minnesota hockey scene. It's great to play with the boys there, and I think they have a really good thing going, and it gives you a lot of good experience and shows you how to hold your own on the boards, especially with the physicality of the boys. So I know a lot of girls who play college hockey now shared a similar experience playing at Minnesota Made. And then when I transitioned into high school, I think that helped me. I played at Benilde for a little bit, loved Benilde, and then I transitioned to Gentry with a few of my other friends some of them who play college hockey now. Bailey Burton played at Providence, and now she's at St. Cloud. Cassidy, she's one of my best friends. She plays at Franklin Pierce now. So we went there, and that was a really cool experience. I think it's different than a lot of experiences people have in Minnesota, but I believe it brought me here, so I'm very thankful for it.
Yeah, is the transition from boys to girls hockey like challenging, or is it sort of seamless? Because I know some girls like they transition from boys to girls before checking, and then some girls play like a year of checking. So I'm curious if like that you had that experience at all, and if so, like how did that help your transition?
My parents had to force me to go back into girls hockey because seriously, I made some great friends. A lot of the boys play college hockey now, and um, in terms of the transition, I think it was easy for me. I I feel like you could imagine that a girl going from men's hockey to women's hockey would be super physical and get a lot of penalties, but I don't really remember that being true. I think it would fall into the seamless category, but I can't speak for everyone. So maybe it
Mhm.
might be a little different, but for me it was easier even though I was forced by my parents to do it because I loved playing with the boys.
Who was your favorite player growing up? Was it someone in the NHL or was it a women's player on the national team?
My favorite player growing up was probably Victor Hedman. I always make this joke that like if someone's like, oh, have you ever would you say you model your hockey playing after anyone else? I say Victor Hedman because he's just like this giant 240-pound defenseman, and I'm obviously not. So there's like a joke there, but
Mhm.
he's a great defenseman. But no, I do not think I'm a 240-pound male who has this crazy shot from the blue line. But he is one of my favorite players. He's awesome.
I think he's arguably one of the best NHL defensemen in the past 15 years. Like, I think he's a big reason why if you want to go on deep playoff runs, and obviously he is one of those guys. And yeah,
Yeah.
he's definitely a Hall of Famer, right? If he retired today, but I know he has a few more years left.
He does. I think he's awesome. I think you said it perfectly. He's a shutdown defenseman, and I think there's a lot to learn there for me.
Now, yeah, yeah, yeah. And obviously, like you said, before college hockey, you played for Benilde St. Margaret's, and you also played for Gentry Academy your senior year. So just talk about your experiences with those schools and I guess what you took away from them.
They were astronomically different, so I think I took away different things from both of them. But Nils has a long history of like great women's hockey players. That's honestly what drew me there in the first place. Aside from it having a really good education, they had a really good team when I was in seventh grade, and I remember looking up to these girls, being like, "Oh my gosh, they are so cool! I want to be them." We struggled a little bit as I got in college. I think there was a little bit with any team when you have a huge group of seniors graduating and they're all amazing. I think it hurts the team a little bit. I think that showed. We didn't have the best record when I was there in high school hockey, but I think that aided in a little bit of my transfer to Gentry. But I am so thankful for my experience at Benilde. Like I said, wonderful education, wonderful coaches, wonderful history there. So I think I took away a lot of really good experiences with some really good athletes. Gentry, completely different story in terms of just like how the school works and like it's it's definitely different in terms of like the school. I mean, you're basically in class with all of your hockey teammates, which is fun, and you skate in the morning, which we obviously didn't do at Benilde, which is a really cool experience. I loved it. And a lot of the girls I met at Gentry are some of my best friends, and I play against them. So I met a lot of really, really good people that I probably wouldn't have otherwise met because, like, one of my best friends, Cassidy, she plays at Franklin Pierce. She's from Stillwater, so I might not ever have had the opportunity to meet her. And Bailey Burton, I knew from summer hockey. She, like I said, she played at Providence and then St. Cloud. And I knew her, but I probably wouldn't have gotten the chance to become closer to her if it had not been from Gentry. So Gentry was really cool. It's very hands-on hockey. I know they've had some success as they went to the high school hockey in Minnesota, and that's been really cool to see. So rooting for both Benilde and Gentry always on my
Yeah.
behalf.
And why'd you switch from Benilde to Gentry from your junior to senior year?
I think just because I knew some of the girls who were transferring there, and like Bailey and Cassidy, and they they were just really great people. And I think we struggled a little bit in Benilde hockey, and I wanted to change. I do think there's an advantage to transferring to Gentry in that you play so many more games, and I think that can be appealing for some players who just want more in terms of
Mhm.
hockey. The Minnesota high school season is actually short. I know a lot of the girls who grew up out east, they played in prep school and they play so many games. So I think Gentry was appealing in that you got to play a lot, and I think that helps going into college hockey where the transition can be a little tough for girls
Mhm.
sometimes.
Yeah, and also those East Coast girls, they play club hockey in the summer as well, so it's
Yeah,
like double that from the prep
yeah,
school season as well.
yeah. It still confuses me. They talk about it, and I'm like, oh my gosh, it's completely different experiences.
Yeah, talk about the Minnesota high school hockey scene though, because I'm an East Coast guy, so I
Oh,
find
you
that hard to understand. Um, just because like I find it kind of crazy that you could sell an NHL arena for a high school hockey game, and I also think it's kind of cool that you can go to school where you grew up and still have a chance to make it to D1. Because in the East Coast, that's very hard to do. You usually have to transfer to a juniors or go to a prep school. So just talk about what it's like being a player in that scene.
Oh my gosh. Um, Minnesota high school hockey is so special. It truly is. Like when I grow up and have kids someday, there's nothing I want more for them to be able to have that opportunity. It is so cool to see. I think in Minnesota, especially in the colder climates, people love hockey just because there's not as much going on there, and you I mean, it just is something that brings the whole town together. Especially, I speak to that of Grand Rapids. That's in northern Minnesota, if you don't know where that is. And it's a small town. It's where my parents grew up, and it's just like the whole town comes to hockey games. It's this huge event. It's so special, especially during the state hockey tournament. I mean, the whole state's there. Like you go there and you run into
Mhm.
everyone. It's so special. And for the players that get to play in the championship, wonderful opportunity. Tyra on my team won the state championship, and she likes to remind us every single day. So it's funny, but yeah, it's really special, and it's very different because
Mhm.
a lot of the girls on my team will ask me about it, and obviously they have different experiences playing club hockey, prep school. A lot of them went to boarding school, which is different. Most people in Minnesota do not do that. So I like hearing about both experiences. I think they're super special.
What's your favorite high school hockey memory?
Gosh, I don't know. I think the most transformational memory I have in high school was actually the first time I played varsity hockey when I was in 8th grade. There's something just I don't know. I remember looking up to some of the seniors on the team and being like, you guys are the coolest people I have ever seen in my entire life. And I remember going into practice the first day, really happy that I was given that opportunity as an 8th grader. Not everyone gets that. So I was very thankful and obviously honored. Benilde's a great place. And I think one of the best memories for me was making varsity as an 8th grader. Just an
Yeah.
accomplishment, get under your belt.
And I was just looking up some of the players you got to play with in high school, and it
Mhm.
wasn't the players you mentioned, but you played with Crystal Sorum,
Yep.
Grace Peluso, and Megan Cornell, just to name a few.
Yep.
I'm curious, how does playing with players like that help prepare you for college hockey and help your development as a hockey player?
Well, of course, playing with talented players like themselves helps you so much on the ice. Crystal had the coolest hands anybody ever saw. She was always Mrs. Dangle, so she was great. Grace Peluso was a super strong defenseman. She played at Holy Cross. Crystal played at Ohio State, and Megan Cornell. I mean, talk about an all-around player. She was amazing leader, nicest person you'll ever meet. It's no surprise she went somewhere great like Dartmouth. So playing with players like that, I think helps you on the ice just because it gives you experience with like talented players. But off the ice, it helps a lot too, especially with great people, just because they're resources. I mean, especially when they're older, you're running into them places, or you can shoot them a text and say, hey, I'm super nervous for my first college practice, which is, I'm sure, going through a lot of girls' heads, and they answer any questions you have. So it's great. It helps a lot on and off the ice.
Now, talk about your recruitment process to St. Anselm. What made you want to go there versus other schools you might have looked at?
So for those who don't know, we actually had a coaching change. So I had 2 years with Coach Matthews, who is now the associate head at Boston University, which is a very cool thing for her. I think a lot of the reason I came to St. Anselm was for her, because she is just a wonderful head coach. And a second part, I chose St. Anselm was just the school is amazing. Um, I think we have one of the best schools in NEWHA. We have a wonderful campus. The academics are seriously unmatched. Like I mentioned earlier, I'm going to law school, and New Hampshire holds the first political primary, so it attracts a lot of political scientists. And so the politics department is pretty renowned here. And it just was super attractive to someone like me, having a lot of these cool professors and a super small actually came out when I was in the recruitment process and got to see that firsthand, because I was kind of a homebody. Like, if you would have asked me, if you would have asked high school Gabby if she would have thought she would have came to New Hampshire, my answer probably would have been no. But coming here, it's so special, and I'm really happy I did. I feel really well prepared going into law school, and I had a great experience with Coach Matthews. I've had a great experience thus far with Coach Kindred, and I've just been really happy. So
That's great that the coaching transition worked out for you because I know
yeah.
for some teams sometimes it can be a little bit challenging. So I guess what was it like going through that? And I guess how nice is it to have go from one great coach to another great coach?
So a lot of people have asked me about the differences between them, and one of my teammates gave me a really good analogy when she was talking about leadership. This is a little shout out to my really good friend Kennedy Cooper. She talks about how there's people who are carrot people, and there's people who are stick people. So like a stick person is motivated by fear of punishment, and a carrot person is motivated by receiving a reward. So I would say that a really good way to describe Coach Matthews was that she was more of a stick coach. You were definitely scared of the punishment with her. She was very by the books, strict, but I think a lot of people can relate to having a tough coach like that. It's once you get those small wins with her, you feel really great. And for in terms of Coach Kindred, she is more of a carrot person. Like if you we're definitely motivated by the rewards she gives us, and she's really positive, and if you're doing a good job, she will tell you. And I think like you said, I think a lot of people have had tough experiences with coaching changes. I mean, it's a reality of women's hockey. It's a reality of hockey in general, and especially after COVID, when so many things were getting shaken up. I think a lot of people underwent college coaching changes, and it's scary. I mean, you don't know what to expect, but everything has been seriously great with Coach Kindred. Especially as a captain, I've got to know her a lot better than some. So it's been great.
Now, yeah, and what was like the biggest adjustment you had to make to college hockey? Was it the speed of the game, the physicality, or just the decision making, especially as a defender? Because the game's moving so much quicker, you have to like make those breakouts much faster than you do in high school.
Hey, I'm still trying to figure out the decision making here. So I think initially you go in, and especially in high school hockey in Minnesota, like I talked about, like you play fewer games than you do in college hockey. And it's just like you go from having like a 1 hour practice to like a 2 hour practice with lift and film. I think a huge adjustment is the time management side of things, especially going to a difficult school that is extremely academically rigorous. The time management is tough. Like we get done Monday, Wednesday, Fridays. We'd have class all morning, afternoon practice, evening. that's a huge adjustment in terms of like your personal life. On the ice, it was definitely the speed. I mean, I remember thinking in my first month of hockey, I'm like, will my groins ever and my hip flexors ever stop hurting? And for those who are coming into college hockey, they do. This first month is a little tough, but after that, I think you try to adjust more to like the dynamics of the game, like you talked about. So the decision making aspect of it is something that's definitely a challenge for defensemen because, I mean, you play good teams, the forwards come at you so fast. They're running forecheck plays on you, sometimes that you don't even see coming, and you have to react quick. So I think I'm still trying to figure it out, but I've gotten a lot better.
Yeah, it seems like you've done a good job with it from the games I've watched you play. So you're doing a good job at least hiding it, I guess.
No, I just say that. I mean, you come as a senior and you feel a lot more confident. So in as freshman year, definitely intimidated. I feel like I got down a lot better now. So
Especially the communication aspect of it, because I feel like
yeah,
the goalies are barking at the defensemen so much in college hockey compared to high school. So that's something else you have to sort of learn how to do.
my goalie on our team, Allie Kelly, she played at Quinnipiac. First, let me say she's a wonderful athlete. She's done amazing things for our team. She's vocal on the ice. Actually, in one of our last series, I accidentally almost like body checked her behind the net because she left the puck for me. She was just a little slow to getting back to the net. And after the game ended, I was like, AK, I think I almost took you out. And she was like, you did. It was funny. But yeah. So you still gotta get used to some of those things. But yeah, she talks to us a lot behind the net, but she's great.
Now, during your freshman year, you lost in the NEWHA championship game. I'm curious what you took away from that experience and that playoff run that has helped you out today as a senior.
Let me be honest with you. I think about that loss every single day. And like I said, one of my good friends is on the winning team, and she will never hesitate to send me a picture of that banner in their college apartment. So seriously, we think about that every day. It's a heartbreaker. I mean, you go into the championship, you want to win, you leave the rink at their rink with a loss like that. It's tough. Low scoring game. I think that's what hurt us. Definitely going to playoffs this year. I think we need to get more up on the board. I think we definitely have the players to do that. They've been looking really good. So we think about that every day. I mean, that's plain and simple. We think about it in practice, in games, everything. So it's been a huge motivator for us. I think it gives us, honestly, a leg up going into playoffs because we have a serious bone to pick with Franklin Pierce and anyone else who will try to take the championship away from us this year.
Have a season because of the pandemic. I'm curious, what did you do during that season when you weren't playing hockey? I think it's made you a better hockey player today.
Gosh, freshman or oh, so you're referring to my sophomore year. So we were sent home my freshman spring, and then that wasn't too crazy because we got to return to the campus in the fall. But in the fall, we kind of expected to have a season. We were practicing like we were going to have one, and it didn't work out that way. So it was really, really tough. Um, One of the things that I think motivated me is knowing that there are still some teams back home playing. I knew a lot of girls on their teams. Minnesota didn't quite shut down. And so seeing those girls playing games, we got to obviously watch a lot of hockey because we weren't playing it. And you're just so envious because I remember sitting there being like, I'm in New Hampshire. I'm all the way out here. I want to play so bad, but you just can't. So we watched some of those games and of the girls playing back home, obviously, and I knew some of them. So just keeping with it, I think, because you see other girls playing, you're like, we can keep with it. You're obviously envious, but you know, I think the fact that there was still hockey going on helped us stay motivated.
It definitely makes you more appreciative of it when you get back because you don't take it for granted. I think a lot of people sometimes, at least before COVID, took a lot of things for granted. And then obviously it just shows you how things can change so quickly in like just a short period of time. So I
Oh
think
my,
that's one thing that a lot of players have told me was just how grateful they were just to play in the game because they didn't really get to have that experience when the things got taken away, but also just not playing in front of fans and not having that normal experience also sucked for the players that did play that year.
yeah, I mean, there's some people who went really far in playoffs and stuff, and they just they couldn't have fans there. I can't even imagine. I mean, play your whole life to reach a point like that. And then, I mean, not even be able to have like your whole family in the stands. I mean, that has to be absolutely heartbreaking, but there is a silver lining in it. Seriously. I mean, you get to spend more time with your family and friends. And you're right. Once you do start playing hockey, it really feels like, it felt like a luxury, honestly. So, I think it definitely taught a lot of college athletes about how much they love the game and why they're there, because fighting through that, it was hard, but so worth it.
Hmm. So we're now in a segment I like to call the non-hockey segment, where I get to know you a little bit more, both on
Let
and off the ice. So first one is, what music do you like to listen to?
I like to listen to everything. So, honestly, there's a lot of, when I came out here, girls listen to different music. So I've got a taste of a lot of it. More
Mhm.
EDM and like that kind of music out here. I listened to a lot of country music before that, which is typical of Minnesota, I'm sure you think. But yeah, I feel like I listen to everything now. Rap before games, EDM. I like EDM, country if I'm just hanging out. So I'm not in one category. I like it all.
Yeah. Well, I interned for a baseball team a couple summers ago, and they had a lot of guys from like California and down south in Florida. And those people listen to country a lot. So I sort of assume it was more of a Southern and West Coast thing than more of a Midwest thing.
Oh no. The Minnesotans love their country music. It's the best time in the summer, country concerts. But yes, I mean it's everywhere now. I feel like country is so popular. So I'm sure you're right. It is a southern and West Coast thing, but a lot of people in the Midwest like it too.
Yeah, no, they got me into it. I'm a big Morgan Wallen guy now because of
Yeah,
it.
yeah. A lot of girls on my team they they hate country music. So I'm trying every day just to give them a little bit of it. But Morgan Wallen's a good start because he's got a little more of those pop songs now. So
Hmm.
I think that's why he's popular.
Now, what is your most embarrassing hockey moment? Like, did anyone like break your ankles one time? Did you ever like receive a big check? Like, I'm curious, what's one moment that you look back on, a little embarrassed, but you can also laugh about?
So I actually am embarrassed to say I don't remember who we were playing, but there was a game where I tipped the puck in our own net, and actually another one of our defensemen did too. So AK's looking at me, and it was Savannah, number 9 on our team, and she's like, you guys tipped 2 goals on me in this game." And I feel like every D can sympathize with that. I mean, you're in the front of the net, you got some girl stick, you're picking her up, and the puck just hits you and somehow goes in, and it's just like,
Yeah.
no, so embarrassing. Luckily, though, it wasn't blatantly obvious that it happened. So I get back to the bench and I'm like, oh, I don't know. I might have tipped it in, maybe. But AK and I know what happened. She's our goalie. So I'm kidding. I told our whole team that it was me. But yeah, that was definitely embarrassing. I wish I remembered who we were playing, but I think we still won the game. Luckily, we did.
Yeah,
We
that's all
did.
that counts. That's all that counts. Like, so I feel like that's a lot worse than getting your ankles broken, because at least if you get your ankles broken, like sometimes there's not a goal, but when you tip it in your own net, then that costs your team a goal. So I feel like that's even worse.
You know, you can laugh at it now. I think it stinks, seriously, and I cannot, for the life of me, I cannot believe that the one game that it happens, 2 of us accidentally tip it in front of the net. I don't know what the deal was. Maybe they had really big girls. I wish I remembered the game. So I'm honestly sorry I don't, but I'm I'm pretty sure we still won. So if we would have lost, oh gosh, that would have made it 10,000 times more embarrassing. But I can't really remember a time where anyone broke my ankles. It's probably a good thing, right?
That's good. That's good.
Yeah, yeah. There's no moment that's sticking out in my brain, so that's probably good.
That's good. That's good.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like there was a game against Harvard, maybe, if I'm not mistaken.
Harvard? Am I tell
I
me.
feel like I remember there was a game where maybe it was, I don't know if it was St. Anselm or not, but there was a game against Harvard where a girl did that and she scored a goal. But I might be mistaken, might have not been your team. I just remember that game.
It very well could have been, and I'm just not remembering, but I think I would have remembered it, but
Hmm.
sorry.
It's all good. It's all good. Well, getting back to some of your teammates, first of all, who's the funniest teammate you have on St. Anselm?
Oh my gosh. The list seriously goes on. I crack up with my team every single day. Tyra Turner, number 7, she is one of our best forwards. She's an awesome hockey player. She was nominated for Rookie of the Year. Pumped her tires a little bit there. She is hysterical. Like she's one of the funniest. She's always dancing. You know, the gritty.
I do know the gritty, yes.
embarrassed as a senior to be mentioning that, but she does that a lot. Our goalie, AK, is really funny. She brought a fish into our locker room, so she's always doing something silly, and she wears these bright colored like Nike Pro socks, and we always give her a tough time because we're like, it's just this random day in the winter, and AK shows up. Socks that were popular back in like 7th grade, and she owns them, and that's all you can do, right? Like, so she's
Yeah.
hilarious. She's another one of the funniest on the team.
Which teammate takes the longest to respond to your phone calls or text messages? Like who's someone that like makes you frustrated when they don't get back to you so quickly?
Someone, do you want to know what's funny about this question? Is
Hmm.
I bet if you asked my entire team, some of them might say me, because I am just not the texter. Once I get away from the rink, and I usually am happy to do something related to school. Like right now I'm studying for the LSAT still. It honestly might be me who doesn't respond. So it's funny that you asked me that. The flip question, I honestly don't know if there's a good teammate. It might be my coach.
Hmm.
If my
Which
responds,
teammate then gets back to you quickly? Like you send them a text and it's like 2 minutes later they like respond.
oh, we've got a good answer for this one. Kelly Golini. So she's our grad year grandma, we like to call her. Give her a tough time just because she's old and she breaks a lot of records. So you have to humble her a little bit. You seriously could text her. I bet if I texted her right now, 3 seconds, 3 seconds. She is the captain who is always on her phone. You could reach her any time of the day. If any of us needed anything, she would be right there. So Kelly definitely wins that one.
Oh, that I feel like you have to as it was one of the captains, just because if you're sort of like I guess somewhat responsible for your team because you want them to make sure that everything's going smoothly.
Oh yeah, she is super strong on like the whole logistic side of being a captain. It's great. So she takes the cake for that one for sure.
Now, who has the best style on the team? I would say there's a lot of candidates on your team, but maybe yourself, but besides yourself, maybe is there anyone else that has the best style on the team?
We have so many girls on our team with great style. It's funny you say that as being someone who's not on our team that you can even pick up on that. So that's cool. I would say Maddie Wrestler. She is definitely on the girly side, loves to put on a good outfit. So I would definitely, she's got some good ones. Um, I remember Heather McAvoy, she wore this blazer to one of our games and it was her grandma's. Super cool, like vintage blazer. Definitely got some cool style points there. So there's definitely a lot of candidates. My first vote would be Maddie Wrestler, though.
I had the chance to meet Blue Fancy one time, and she told me that you guys have one of the best styles in all of women's college hockey. So I sort of got some inside information from that conversation we had a couple years ago.
Oh yeah, yeah. Oh, gosh, I miss Blue. She had. We always told Blue she had the best college hockey name in all of history, like Blue Fancy, on the line, starting for St. Anslem. Let's go. It was funny, but she wins for the coolest hockey name. But yeah, I would agree. We do have some cool style on our team.
What is the most interesting thing you've read or seen this week?
Most interesting thing I've read or seen this week. Oh my gosh, I actually don't know about that one. It's honestly all bad news. That's horrible to say, but like it's crazy.
That's why I don't watch the news that much anymore. I try to
Me
like try not to like stay I try to stay out of that stuff. If something's really important, I will probably find out.
that a lot. Even being like a politics major, it's like an unsaid rule that you should like stay up on what's going on in the world. So I found that Bloomberg gives a pretty good reporting of what's happening, but I'm just gonna let you in. I've not been up to date on the Bloomberg rating over this winter break. And I've honestly been scared with some of the crazy stuff that's been in the news recently. So I've been staying away.
Yeah, no, I understand. I understand that. I guess
In hockey wise, though, finding out that Sacred Heart beat Harvard was pretty crazy. That was
yeah,
awesome.
that was cool. That was cool. I guess for hockey, for me, I was at the Bruins game yesterday, and I was interested to see John Tortorella's press conference after that big loss he had, and I just thought that was interesting because I think he's kind of a fascinating coach, just because the way he like sort of, I guess the way he seems like, I don't know, he seems like a good motivator, but it's sort of I guess unconventional sometimes. So I find him pretty interesting.
What did he say?
He was just pretty disappointed because he's like,
Yeah.
yeah, it is what it is. But he like was more very short answers. But the one thing I thought was interesting was someone asked him like, does he lost confidence in his goalie because they lost 6-0, and he's like, no, like it's a team loss. Whenever you lose 6-0, it's never the goalie's fault when you get blown out like that. So I found that pretty interesting.
I actually really like that statement. We were at the Bruins game too. We were lucky enough. Our coach got our team a suite, which is crazy, and I'm so thankful. We had a wonderful time. So we did see the Bruins absolutely take it to them. They look
Hmm.
so good. It's crazy when you watch a good team like that. They make it look so simple and easy. If you were a hockey outsider, you'd be like, man, they just make it look like it's nothing. But
Hmm.
as a player, I sympathize with knowing how easy it is just to make that perfect pass. They scored so many backdoor goals. I'm like, that's crazy. But I will agree with you. I like that statement by their coach because I stand by that too. I think a 6-0 loss is um, definitely on the whole team. I actually we had an off weekend, so I was home. I went to the UND boys game against Western Michigan. Um, they played their third string goalie, UND did, and I thought that was really special.
Yeah, I just feel like whenever a goalie gets pulled, people always decide to blame it on them. But I feel like it was more interesting to see that it's like a whole team than rather just one person.
Oh, I completely agree with that. I completely agree with that.
So yeah, no, that Zaka goal was insane. The second one where it was like that 91 mile per hour like one timer, that was really impressive to watch.
Yeah, he like fell over after. I'm like, geez. I was looking over at my teammates. I was giving them a tough time and was like, Tyra, take notes. Take notes. Because I give her a tough time if she ever throws it over the net or something. But you have to. That's hockey.
Yeah. And then last non-hockey question is if you could have lunch with anyone in the world, who would it be and why?
I would say Ruth Bader Ginsburg. She is a um, female powerhouse. Sadly, she passed away. Obviously, I like her political background and stuff, and I think she would just give me a really interesting conversation. Obviously, love the girl power there. I would love to talk to a female who was able to just be a complete powerhouse and when the odds were set against her a lot. And so I would love to talk to her.
Now, getting back to some hockey questions now. First one is for all the younger people listening to this episode. What advice would you give them on what it takes to make it to the Division 1 level?
I will say this. I think there's a lot when you're growing up, you feel like sometimes you're missing out on some stuff. Like hockey as a younger child is crazy. Like you are playing it constantly, and that's seriously what it takes to get to this level. And I will say this, you will never regret working hard. You will never regret putting in too much effort, but you will always regret not putting in enough. So
Mhm.
my best advice is to seriously put your head down, grind, and it'll really be worth it because there are some moments in college hockey that are so magical, and it makes you feel like every single second of time you put in as a younger kid were worth it. And so the reward is coming. It's just delayed gratification. And so just think to yourself, there will be a day I'm so happy I did this. It might not be in the next 2 years, it might not be in the next four, but soon enough there will be a day where I'm so happy I put in this work, even if it felt like I'm making major sacrifices, especially in like some of your early developmental years where it can be tough to have that like emotional maturity. But there is a day where you will be so happy you did, and that's probably my best advice to give them.
Yeah, that's great advice because if I remember asking you about your most embarrassing hockey moment, probably for me, one of them was there was a game when I was like a youth hockey player where I got upset about something and I didn't try my best, and I still think about like how I didn't put enough effort to it, and it really bothers me. So that's definitely something to like, it doesn't seem like that like too big at the time. It still like really lingers on with you after like even a long time after that happens. So always give your best and. Luckily, that was only one game for me, but definitely something that I regret doing.
Yeah, see, it's tough, and I know that's so much easier said than done because like it's years upon years, especially in like high school. It can be tough with like school and everything, but stay on the grind.
Hmm.
It's very rewarding. So
Well, do you have any shout outs you want to give to any of your teammates, former teammates, family members, friends, or just want to say anything? The floor is all yours.
okay, I'll give some shout outs. For girls on my team, I really want to give a shout out to our goalie. She's kept us in so many games. She's wonderful. I think she'll probably fifth year. So if there's a player I could give all my luck to when I graduate, it would definitely be her, just because she's on top of it. Like that, she's one of our assistant captains. She gets great grades, bonds with the team, is wonderful on the ice. Um, I would just love to give her all my luck if I could bottle it up and send it off with someone. So definitely her. I'd like to give a shout out to Tyra Turner, as much as it pains me because the girl gets so much attention already. We give her a tough time because did you see her Sports Center goal ever? We got to give it to her a little bit. She's outstanding,
You need
but
to humble sometimes. It's all good.
yeah, but the great thing about Tyra is she's awesome off the ice too. She's so fun and friends with all of our teams. So definitely give a shout out to her. A new shout out is Audrey Jackson was just on Sports Center too. Super awesome goal, so fun. So she's got some crazy hands. I want to give her a shout out just because she's one of those players, so skilled, but you can see her confidence like transforming, and it's especially as like a leader who's been through that, you love to see it in other players, and she's just been having a great year. So shout out to her. I want to give a shout out to Jamie Gottwald, the scariest senior I ever had when I was a freshman, but who I now love talking to. She was great. You know, as a freshman, you're like, what the heck? Like, there's this really mean senior. I don't like you, but now I love Jamie, and I'm so thankful Jamie gave me a tough time because it's good. I think it's really good. So I'm trying to think of if I have any more shout outs to give. I don't think I do. I
All
think that's
right, all right. Well, if there's anyone you forgot, I'll give them a shout out now, just so they don't get upset at you. So shout out to anyone that you might have forgot. But thank you
thank
so much, Gabrielle, though, for coming on the podcast. I really appreciate your time. It really means so much for myself. I really think you're one of the more underrated players in NEWHA, and it's great to have you on and talk about your experience. And yeah, I love doing this with you. It was a lot of fun, and best of luck for the rest of this year, but also best of luck for any future endeavors you might have. I know you're going to be successful in whatever you decide to do. So thank you so much. And yeah, thank you for coming on. It means a lot.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. This was super fun. So I really appreciate your time as well. So thank you.